Calling the meeting to order. American number one. 3, 1, and 2.
Yep.
Who is 2? Are you 2? Awesome. I'm new to this, can you tell? So, calling the meeting to order, the American Rescue Plan Act. This is the subcommittee over the courts, responding to the courts. Welcome to you and the viewers on YouTube. The meeting time will be 1 hour. We will be respecting Robert's rules as best we can. And the purpose of this meeting is to discover the policy for the best use of the ARPA funds with regard to Kankakee County. So could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Seroy, Mr. Long.
Present.
Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Featherling.
Here.
We do not have a quorum.
Very good. Okay, so the next thing on my list is public comment, and Kelly. So I have a note here from Bill, and is it Barnes? Yes, Bill Barnes. Do you want to talk in the public input part?
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that wishes to make a public comment? Anyone else? Very good. Seeing none, moving on to public input. So I guess it is your turn, Mr. Barnes.
18.
And he'll be on number 1816.
Left corner.
Oh, way out there.
So, my name is Bill Barnes, live in Manteno, lifelong resident of Kankakee County. As I mentioned before, but until I lived to Manteno a year ago, or for a year, I lived on Cobb Boulevard at Poplar. So, you know, I'm very familiar with Kankakee. And so last month I presented, I work for, can you hear me? Is this on? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I work for Midwest Integrated Solutions, which is a security systems company based in Bradley. I've also worked in the past for St. Mary's Hospital, Duane Dean Behavioral Health most recently, and then also Salvation Army and community relations, business development, that type of thing. So just so you know, kind of a brief history. So when I met with the mayor a month or so ago, he was looking for input on how to reduce, solve, and such crime in Kankakee, which, you know, obviously was a big campaigning point for him. And as we know, there have been a lot of, you know, it seems like I think it's averaging 1 a month killings in Kankakee. So it hasn't so far gotten any better. So the solution that I provided to him was installing surveillance cameras and sound detection equipment that are synchronized to those cameras throughout the city of Kankakee. Obviously starting with kind of the hot spots first and then expanding from there. So as far as the courts go, obviously, you know, it seems to be a problem with policing because you don't have the manpower and such. And then I know from personal experience, my son has 2 friends that went to school, graduated college with law enforcement degrees, and both of them said, I'm not going because of all this stuff going on with defunding the police and such. So, you know, and I know it is a problem as far as recruiting goes. So what cameras, of course, would do was with in facial recognition, there's also license plate recognition, and there's a lot of complicated software that you can, you know, I could get into, but I'm not. For instance, if someone was seen at the crime wearing a red shirt, through software they can pull up red shirt, last seen going this way, and they can identify that person and follow him or her to wherever they're going. So it's very sophisticated. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Boston Marathon bombings years ago, and then it was made into a movie in Patriot Day. The way that they caught those 2 I guess, bombers is through video surveillance at various storefronts. Had it not been for video surveillance, they would have never caught them. So that's my pitch as far as it relates to courts, and then I'll be back again for the infrastructure part later. So thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, since there is no prior meeting, there would not be any minutes, is that correct? Okay, so we're moving up to committee mission and process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As these are kind of like the beginning of the marathon We've talked about it in other committees. We've talked about it a couple times today, just with the other subcommittees that have already met. So if you're watching all these, I apologize for the redundancy, but we have different people in the room at different times. Really, and a lot of where we're starting from, the ground is in the public can find this on our website. It's the KCR3 program. It's a targeted deployment of American Rescue Plan Act funding in Kankakee County. It's a document it contains mission statements, the committee structure, how we're segregating all the funds, really the operations of this, and how we're going to start going forward in developing first policies, then an overarching policy, then specific policies, and then projects that support executing those policies in our community, wherever that might be. So, and also providing for the structure to have partners in that, as Mr. Barnes had mentioned, that there are opportunities to partner with other communities that have the same connected issue. Rather than us both spending money on the same thing, it makes all the sense in the world to coordinate this where it makes sense, and where it doesn't, obviously people don't have to participate. So the main thing I wanted to read to this committee was our mission statement, and then what we were going to be asking to be voted on is the first set of overarching policies that not only this committee but all the committees should be looking at. Just from my perspective and talking with other board members, but that can't be an arbitrary decision. It has to be voted on first by this subcommittee, or potentially, if they were, it would just could be head nod up to the full executive committee. We could do that as well. It's really how you want to handle it. We got a couple people out of town on vacation. That's why we don't have a quorum today. But then once those overarching policies and then any further specific policies that come out of these meetings will have the same type of structure. We'd vote on it here and then throw it up to the executive committee if they pass it as a policy that we want to have. And then this committee will flip right over to be the finance committee version of this court's process, if you will, on how we're responding to the pandemic in the courts. So we don't have to re-explain everything to everybody. They'll become intimate with what projects are supporting that policy or that mission. So with that, the mission statement that I had to start with was the Kankakee County Respond, Revitalize, and Reinvest funds will be allocated for qualified businesses, non-for-profit entities, projects, or direct to individuals based upon the ARPA rules, location, need, impact, and equity. Considering municipalities receive their own allocations, the county will focus on the rural areas of the county infrastructure, and areas within the county that lack the resources and/or infrastructure to mitigate the current and potential future pathogen emergency related issues. And the overarching principles that will guide the process and deployment of the funds will consider the following. These are those overarching policies that per the other articles that are in this booklet, say these are things that we should be looking at. These are things that we should try to focus on as far as impact of these funds. The first one, as practical, deploy 2 years of ARPA funds on initiatives that have a long-term, which means 10 to 20-year impact. Obviously, that's not everything. Some things are immediate. Where applicable, utilize special and internal funds before ARPA funds. Access grant funds instead of ARPA funds when possible. If we can figure out how to backfill in the knowledge gap on what funds or grants are available for different groups, which is good. That's one of the reasons we were looking for a grant writer, which has turned out to be very difficult to find in this climate because they're basically writing their own paychecks wherever they want to go right now, as I'm finding out. So highly in demand. But if the work I'm doing in the background is hopefully going to identify at least a path to have access to what grants are available. They're not all released yet. EDA has a lot, Workforce has a lot. There's stuff that's coming that's in the pipeline. We just don't know what they are yet. I'm trying to get a look under, behind the curtain, so to speak. And hopefully I have more to report on that later. Identify and support communities that were unable and ineligible to participate in the CURES, PPP, and CARES programs. There were people like Well, in this committee, I don't really see anybody as off the top of my head, but like fire protection districts, park districts, you know, people like that didn't get any of the other aid that came down the pike. So I have like a request here, just for reference, even though it's not courts. One park district wanted reimbursement for all the PPE and deep cleaning they had to do. I said, well, you know, we're going to require receipts because that's what's going to be required of us. We just can't give you a flat amount of money and say this reimburses your expenses. It doesn't quite work that way. So we'll reimburse those expenses, I would imagine, when the board approves it, but we'll need documentation. In the same time, you know, if somebody didn't apply for a funding source that was available to them, the county board is going to have to determine whether we are going to provide that funding. That's a big if in my mind. You know, because you didn't know how, or you didn't know about it. I don't know how a business owner wouldn't have known about PPP, but some were not eligible for it. Maybe we should be there to help those folks because of the way they filed their taxes when this all started. You know, that you just have to think about that. But in this case, I think all of these departments that we're talking about within public safety, they were all eligible. They were like uber eligible for a lot of stuff. So just as if you are coming to the other committee meetings, if just as a board member who wants to participate, kind of keep that in mind. And then also, this is a big part, build a consensus for regional projects, solicit public involvement, and deliver the same exceptional transparency exemplified by all other Kankakee County administration processes. Everything's online, everything's accessible, searchable, available. There is nothing hidden anywhere, and this has to be, even though legally we're not required to do so, because we're not over, I believe the number's 400,000 inhabitants in our governmental unit. They have to have full reporting, documentation out there on the web, quarterly reports to the public on how the money's being spent, what the objectives are of each. We don't have to do that, but we're still gonna do that. So that's kind of like the way we're gonna operate. We just have to figure out what framework works best to get that out. I don't want to spend all the time that we have as a committee doing that, so that's why Jasmine is with us to help with that communication and you know, the dissemination of that, not just within our organization, but with the community electronically, and also with the other governmental bodies. We're going to need to know what they're working on, because, you know, everything that goes on in government is always not making a media source to get it online or get it wherever they are distributing to. So we want to make sure we know what's going on to look for those connections. That's the way to do the best impact, I think. And working in courts and the things that we're doing, this is mainly our house, but there may be other connections, like with technology and things like that, that may link us to other governmental bodies in a courts manner. And I'm not sure what that is, but we always have to keep that in mind. We're lucky in this committee because we have some subject matter experts that are board members that have experience dealing with courts and things like that. Other committees don't have that, so if there were people that wanted to join as subject matter experts, retired judges, former state's attorneys, you know what I mean, things like that, they could sit in the room and help us because they've done the job. They know what's going on, you know. So I'll leave that open. But you know, the first thing is, you know, those overarching policies really apply to every subcommittee and the work that we're doing. And there may be more, you know, additional may be adopted during the process by vote of the subcommittee and then the executive committee. So this isn't the end all be all. This is just the start of the things that I thought, and talking with other board members on how we could really take a process that has never existed before without building a huge bureaucracy within county government that would be gone in 3 years. How do we basically do it in reverse? Usually, as I said in other committee meetings, usually you have a project and you go chase the funding. Here we've got all the money, now we're chasing the project. It's backwards, and that is dangerous if you don't do extra work to make sure you're vetting and getting subject matter experts in the room. Otherwise, it could be county board members are making decisions in areas that we may not have the most expertise. Does that make sense? We want to make sure that we're truly aligned with what the community wants and needs based on their expertise. Now, there may be obviously requests out there that get made of us They'll all go on the list unless they're illegal in terms of use of the ARPA funds. But ultimately, the board on the finance side will rank everything, and we'll have a ranked, and then at some point the red line will come across, and there's where you're out of money. So, and then things may change in year two. We'll go, oh wow, we never thought of that, or COVID's back and we need to do this. We'll have that flexibility to be able to move things around if we need to. So, is there any questions immediately from the committee member?
John, what's your number? Is it 10?
Ted. Yeah, he's over 10.
Go ahead.
You had mentioned you talk with park
Needs a mic.
Mike, yeah.
park districts and stuff. That's village stuff, isn't it, usually?
They're separate governmental bodies. They're not connected with the villages. They have their own tax levy. So in one case, like if you say Kankakee Park District, they're not part of Kankakee City government. Wholly different body.
Shouldn't Kankakee City government pay for it?
Well, maybe they can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering
But who helps Bourbonnais Township Park District?
who
Because
else
that they're-
Mantino doesn't have one. You know,
They don't have a-
Mantino Township and the township went together and they don't have a district.
Mhm.
So,
if but again, in Mantino, it may be a little bit different, but in Bourbonnais Township Park District, Mr. Clark was in here earlier, there was no reimbursement for park districts for PPE. So I think it's a legitimate request. Whether we decide to fund it or not is up to the board, but that would be somebody who fell through the cracks. Townships didn't get money.
and churches didn't get money either.
Right. Yep. So I'm not sure that is, I don't know, but if they have a charitable program or something to deal with COVID, we can consider that.
Yeah, that's what I
But
mean.
just to give a church money, I don't think that's
No.
legal use of the money.
Some churches tried to help the community, you know.
Mhm.
They went out there and
Yep.
outreached with their funds that they had in banks to help them out.
I definitely think the faith-based community is going to be a big asset to this whole process in a variety of areas, especially when we're looking to see how much good we can do with the funds in areas that impact every taxpayer in the county.
So are you gonna equally distribute this throughout the county, or you got hot spots you're looking to spend it in, or what's the
I don't
deal
know.
with that?
What's your
Well, I'm
plan?
just saying,
I don't have a plan.
I
I've got
represent a
ideas.
district that's
Yeah.
15 miles from here.
Yeah.
You know, everybody seems to forget about Mantino all the time, so nothing ever happens there. So we don't get bridges, we don't get roads, we don't get things taken care of. So I was just wondering if you're gonna spend any up that way.
With the board will decide. So if there's projects that people need in that area, they would have to bring those forward to, that's what this whole process is.
We've kind of moved on from number 6 to number 7, the policy discussion, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it
we're
just
kinda blending the two
kind of leads to
together.
the, you know.
Anything else, John?
No, that's it for right now.
Okay. Mr. Snipes, you're in the room. Do you have a comment that you'd like to bring forward?
Well, I kind of discussed all of mine back in the previous meeting. Yeah, so,
Is there something that we left out from the other meetings?
no, and he covered the conversation with Hollis Clark from the Park District and some of the others. I think their most exciting moment was when they first started this morning.
Okay.
So I will
Anything
say,
else?
No, that's it.
we put the initial projects in the packets, and you'll have to forgive me, the requests, the court's request, public defender, probation, and circuit clerk, kind of to get the juices flowing. Like, what are people asking for in the court side of things? But if there is critical infrastructure needs, like you mentioned roads, you're more than welcome to come to that committee or send the people that are, if there's county system roads in that area that we should address, then that should be brought forward. I believe it's the 9,000 project, the one that is, the corner of 9,000 and 45, I believe. That is something that we could look at that addresses that corner, and it's already on the MPO list. I don't know where the timing of it is, but if we figure that's a critical infrastructure project, we can't use our money for local match, but we might be able to use highway money for the local match. And we'll have to talk to Mark about that, because there's some legal things. You can't use the federal ARPA money for the local match on a grant. So, but again, the folks up there, if there's things that are left out, we want to hear from them.
Okay.
And if it's just they give you a list and you say, this is a list I've got for my people,
Yeah.
you know, that's good too.
Hang on. Number 14, go ahead.
I would hope that of the 28 board members that we do have here, that the individuals throughout the county reach out to them because they can bring those concerns to us. That would be a great help as well. So that's yet another avenue because we represent 28 different geographical districts that makes up the county. So if they reach out to them, if they can't make it, but reach out to them or write something to them, we do have the we have the email that's online and the whole 9 yards. So there's many avenues that's available to contact your representatives for your respective districts.
You know, this is complicated and multifaceted and requires a lot of expertise. Just looking at the courts, we have many different facets to look at here, so we need everybody's input. Anything else, John? Yeah.
No, not right now.
Okay, very good. Andy, do you have anything else that you would like to bring forward? Comments?
Just I was here to answer questions and kind of talk about the flow. And so first it's policy, then it becomes the finance side of it. In between that, we may rank things coming out of this subcommittee, saying these are the things that we thought were the biggest priority, even though you're not putting numbers next to them. You know, that we could get involved in that if you think that's appropriate. Try not to make it too rigid, you know, but at least provide some structure to wiggle around in.
So what we think is important joins the list, and the list is a large list.
Yeah, there's courts, and then there'll be what public safety thinks is important. Then guess what? The whole executive committee gets to rank all of that and send it over to finance, you know, and then, you know, then finance may reshuffle the deck based on how much money's left.
Do you have a list from the courts and the public defender, probation, and circuit clerk of what they would like to do?
Yeah, they were in the packet that was sent out Friday. And then I think they're also in here as well. Yeah, we also had a couple academic articles, journal articles written by the Brookings Institute that were really good information in terms of logical approaches to how governments should be working together, how an equitable distribution and deployment of funds, what that could potentially could look like, as well as the FAQ from the Department of Treasury, the most recent, that talks about, you know, what are the rules? Because it's just not as easy as it sounds. It's not like, I hear of, well, you know, somebody told me that people were saying, well, the county should just go fix the roads. Well, the state of Illinois has 17. Okay, Schuyler 2, I believe, is to a point from the south part is all a state route. The city has the rest of them. If there's a county road or something like it's, well, here's a good example. Would people consider Brookmont Boulevard a key infrastructure project, the viaduct at Brookmont, for many communities? That's something we could think about, and would we have partners with Kankakee and Bradley to do Brookmont Boulevard? But that's just a starting point of a discussion.
How did roads fit into
COVID, I don't understand.
It's infrastructure.
I thought it all had to relate to COVID. I did some reading on it, and it said there had to be things that would help you next time if it happened again, things that would keep you further apart to keep it from spreading if they get started again now.
Correct.
And special things that we've had to do because of COVID.
That's not limited to, but that's part of it, yes. And then there's also infrastructure projects within communities. It's both. It's all of the above.
So you're playing Monopoly without a rule book then?
Well,
There's a rule book.
There's a very substantial rule book.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
you can use COVID money to fix a road, more power to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just we'll have to decide, are we going to fix a road in the municipality, or are we going to deal with the system roads in Kankakee County?
They all got money too.
Yep. That's why we're here.
Mantino got $11 million or something, right?
I don't know. I can't remember what they got.
Somebody told
Yeah.
me that. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah. It's all based on Community Development Block Grant funding formula. That CDBG. I always want to say CBGBs because I like music, but so the heebie-jeebies, yeah. No, but the city got more because they have a larger formula in development block grant funding. The city of Kankakee. The county is just based on population, and then everybody else was on block grant formula. So I believe like Bradley got around 2.5, I don't know, something like that. Bourbonnais might have got 3.5
Well,
million.
then maybe we didn't get 11.
I don't-
Maybe I
yeah.
just heard a rumor that
Yeah.
somebody said, we're getting $11 million. It's like, I don't think so. That doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even Limestone got, even though in the initial discussion they were kind of left out, even they have an amount as well too, so.
Yeah.
Every community got something.
Yeah, and then it goes up by 10 million every time somebody says it, so.
You know,
It's like fishermen.
that's why we have to read and understand what you're reading.
Yeah.
You
One
know.
pound per county line.
The one thing I will say is that we're lucky that we've got really a team of 3 people that are internalizing this and really are looked to as almost like resources for other municipalities on how we can legally spend this money and the different things that we have to do on the accountability side of it as far as quarterly reporting and everything else. It's Steve McCarty, it's Chris Kerner, and then Anita's working with them as well. So we got 3 people that are really building the internal financial systems and creating those internal controls which already exist between finance department, the auditor's office, and the treasurer's office, you know, checks and all this stuff that goes around because frankly, if we're a granting organization, internally it's not as tricky, but externally, if we were granting to somebody, we're the grantor and there is a grantee. And just like we have grants that we're accountable for certain deliverables, we'll have to come up with that stuff because if things go sideways and money has to be paid back, it won't be us that pays it back. It's that the people that did the crime will do the time, as they say. You know, they got to pay that bill. So there's more to come on all this. We'll have forms to fill out. It can't be a fly-by-night. I just set up my non-for-profit last week and just so I can get COVID money. It's going to be, I'm going to say, rigorous. And we want to make sure that we have partners in this that are looking at the long haul. And also, like in our case, in this committee, what things can we do with short-term money that have a long-term impact?
You don't have to pay for it again later.
Exactly. Well, a good example is we have ADA still. We've addressed all the date certain stuff. We're out of the penalty box. I don't want to say, you know, we're out of the penalty box with the Attorney General, but we'll go back in if we don't address the other ADA stuff at the courthouse, which is the workspaces. So that's something we're going to have to look at. We're going to have to talk about.
Yeah, but that would be COVID related to me, you know, keep you a little further apart, you know.
Actually, there is, but it's also qualifies for revenue loss, which is a larger bucket of money.
Yeah, or hiring people to catch up on the courts, you know,
Potentially.
paperwork and things like that.
Potentially, yeah. But at some point on Finance Committee, we'll have to take a look at, you know, okay, well, yes, we need to catch up on it. We need to hire people to start burning through all these cases, but we just lost $5 million from the state of Illinois. So those two are pulling at different ends of the scale.
Well, what I meant is hire temporary people to come in and help, you know. I know Sandy probably has to train everybody, but you could hire, there's secretarial, temp services, and executive temps and everything else. You can get whatever you want.
It's a tough one.
Well, you could. Maybe you can't
When
now.
you got a union, it's tough.
Yeah.
You can't do temps hired by an outside company. That becomes tough unless they agree to it. So again, we'll get in the weeds on all that stuff. You're not wrong for that because something has to be done to catch up on the workload at the courthouse.
That's what I mean.
But we have 2 things pulling at us. We have one, we have all this money that we could spend some of it on to help catch up, but we just lost $5 million a year because of the state of Illinois' changes in the laws. And you can't use this to cover that or create a false budget expectation and basically, if you use the COVID money for this, you're passing deficit budgets because that money won't be there in 3 years.
Yeah.
So it's hard people to get that out there in the community because you can't use this to cover for what you lost over here because there was no COVID reason for what the state of Illinois did to our finances this past session. So it's really, really tough. You almost have to split your brain in half in a way to think about this because it's 2 different problems. Yeah. So.
Anything else, Andy?
No, that's it for now. Next week, I mean, become familiar, come up with ideas, what you think we could spend this for, infrastructure improvements, you know, anything else. You know, I mean, I know one of John's things he was gonna bring up at PZA was a burned out house that is sitting right at the entrance to our county.
Yeah.
Can we, you know, on 45, can we use that money to tear that house down? I think it looks horrible for our image.
Yep.
You know, but that would go through PZA probably. First, we'd have to get our Dell to look at it. But then, can we use ARPA money to do that?
Yeah.
You know, that, what is it, 20 grand to tear a house down?
25.
25? Yeah, it's not cheap. Yeah, so, you know, the thought is that tourism related, hospitality related? I don't know. We'd have to have that argument and then probably get someone that has a JD at the end of their name.
There might be some COVID germs inside there.
Huh?
Might be old COVID germs inside.
Yeah. Club COVID. We'll redo it for tourism.
Stopping
Roadhouse.
COVID at the county line. Huh?
So no, it's legit. I'm not saying that's it, but those are
Yeah, just
things we have to look at like that, you know.
So moving on, I don't think you can vote on anything today. However, the discussion today has been informative, and what we'll do is we'll
Motion to
table-
continue.
we'll table those things eventually and figure out what the highest and best use of our funds are and know what those boundaries are. Anything else? Kelly, do you have anything else? Okay, so Kelly told me earlier that there wouldn't be minutes until we have recessed and came back and finished this meeting, which is what we can do. So
I'll make a motion to continue the meeting to 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today. What is that date, Kelly? Do we know?
August 2nd.
August 2nd.
I can't be here on that one.
Very good. Very good. I think that's pretty much the end of our meeting, is it not?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, can you second the motion to recess? I
Second
don't even know if there can be a motion.
Chairman
It's
can
just
second the
We
motion.
stand in recess, Mr. State's Attorney?
The chairman can,
We can't even vote, I don't think, at this point. Yeah,
Yeah, we
the
wouldn't be able
chairman
to.
can second something to make a motion proceed, but
but then there's not enough to vote on anything. I've been down that road, believe me. I'm not doing that again. It's a non-meeting, so we're just had a discussion.
this is an illegal meeting.
It is not an illegal meeting. This is as far as we can go
didn't have a
today. We are
quorum,
going to recess here shortly. Anything else to be said?
Nope.
Okay, meeting is